Hey everybody, welcome back to Vanland. You guys may have heard that there are some new power system options on the market, and we've been getting a lot of questions about which is the best power system to buy right now if you guys are building out your van or if you need to upgrade to a lithium power system. So in this video, we're going to compare our Victron power systems to the EcoFlow power kits. This is going to be a head-to-head competition. We're going to look at all of the features, the cost, the ease of installation, and then we're going to take a look at some of the limitations of each of the systems so that you guys can decide which is the best power system for you guys to buy right now. Okay, so let's start with talking a little bit about the differences between Victron and EcoFlow. And these are both very high quality brands, but they do have some differences. So Victron as a company is well known for having high quality equipment. It's very highly regarded, especially in the boating industry, where having a functioning power system is definitely mission critical. So we really trust the Victron components and have done plenty of systems with really good success. EcoFlow power systems represent kind of the future of mobile power systems, and they're designed with an emphasis on ease of installation and rich with features. So these two systems, both of them are good, but they serve a little bit of a different purpose. So the main difference between Victron and EcoFlow is that the Victron is really a set of components that you wire together and you program it to work the way that you want it to. It's a bit like building your own computer, whereas EcoFlow systems are a very specific set of components that all of the wiring harnesses are already made, so you really just plug it in, turn it on, and all of the programming is already done, so you don't have to do any of that. So it really makes it a simpler system to install and use. So before we get into going over each of the features and rating these two different power systems, we want to specifically compare our two most popular systems for you guys because there's a lot of different options and we don't want to confuse that. So we're going to specifically be comparing the Victron 400 amp hour power bundle that we have on our website to the EcoFlow 5 kilowatt power kit. And if you want to know the difference between amp hours and kilowatt hours, a simple way to calculate it is you can take the number of kilowatt hours, for example, 5 kilowatt hours that we're talking about with this EcoFlow kit, and you multiply that by 80 to get the number of amp hours. So 5 kilowatt hours times 80 would equal 400 amp hours. So in this video, we're going to be talking about two systems that really have the same storage capacity. So if you want the specific details on what are in each of these kits, you can go to the website, click on the link, and it will take you to the specific product page that we're talking about. We've also done a bunch of videos on the Victron systems and a full video on the EcoFlow power kit. So you can reference those if you want to just get more details. But we're specifically going to compare them and just kind of go head to head and find out which one is the best for you. Okay, so let's start by talking about storage capacity. So if you're buying a Victron system, you can really put in any storage capacity you want, from under 100 amp hours all the way up to well over 1,000 amp hours. And you do that just by selecting the number of batteries that you're going to put in the system. The EcoFlow power kits are available in 2 kilowatt, 4 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt, 10, and 15 kilowatts. And that just depends on how many batteries you buy of each size, but really there are only those 5 options of sizing available from EcoFlow. So if we're looking at which one of these kits is better in terms of storage capacity, I would say that the Victron, since it gives you more options and a wider range, would get 1 point for storage capacity. Next, let's talk about voltage. So if you're building out your own Victron system, you could choose to make it a 12 volt system or a 24 volt system. Those are definitely the most common, but that's going to be the entire system would be wired that way. With the EcoFlow kits, they are natively 48 volts. So the battery's 48 volts, and then all the power that goes to the power hub is also 48 volts. And then when you export the power from the power panel, you have to choose between 12 and 24 volts. So some people that's not clear to, they think the whole system is 48 volts. It's really not. The reason that the battery and the power hub have the higher voltage is so that the wires can be smaller and generate less heat. So this is actually one of the advantages of the EcoFlow kit, is that it does have smaller wiring harnesses. But once you actually go to distribute the power out of the power panel, you'll only be able to distribute 12 or 24 volts, and you have to choose one of the two. So in terms of voltage, I would say that the EcoFlow power kit, since it has some unique features with smaller wire, would get 1 point and wins the voltage category. Next, let's take a look at the power inverter. For the 400 amp hour Victron power bundle, we would include the 3000 watt inverter. The EcoFlow power kit actually has a 3600 watt inverter. And while the Victron will peak out to 6,000 watts, the EcoFlow will go all the way up to 7,200 watts of peak power. So the EcoFlow does have a larger built-in inverter. So I would say in the inverter category, the EcoFlow power kit wins and gets another point. On to solar charging. So with the Victron kit, what comes standard is a 30 amp charge controller. So that would give you enough to put about 400 watts of solar on the roof. With the EcoFlow kit, it will charge all the way up to 1600 watts natively. So in the solar charging kit, the EcoFlow would take the point. Next, we'll look at charging from the alternator. So this is one of the big differences between the two kits. With the Victron power bundle, you can really charge with as many amps as you want. For instance, a lot of people will put on a secondary alternator that produces 200, 250 amps and charge their system effectively with that. But the EcoFlow power kit does have a limit on the incoming power. So we're only able to get 1600 watts of charging from the alternator. So if you did put on a secondary alternator, for instance, you would not be able to charge the kit with the full amount of power that the alternator could produce. So in this category, the Victron power bundle would get the point because it gives you the capacity to charge with a much higher amperage. So now let's take a look at charging from shore power. So shore power will be the fastest way that you can charge either of these kits typically, and they both are pretty much the same. They'll charge at 3000 watts from the incoming AC power. And this will depend a little bit on what type of power connection you have for your shore power, whether it's 15, 30, or 50 amps. That will make more of a difference than the actual charging capacity of the system. So for charging from shore power, it's pretty much a wash. The next category will be charging from a generator. And this is not something that is super common to do in the ecosystem of a van, but it is done sometimes. And certainly if you're putting this in another type of vehicle, or if you want to use this as home power, for instance, it would be useful to charge from a generator. So for the Victron power bundle, there is no set generator that you should use or could use with it. You can pretty much charge with any generator that you connect to it. But EcoFlow actually comes with a smart generator option. So you can purchase a dual fuel generator that runs on gasoline and propane. And these are integrated into the system. Again, they're just plug and play. So if you did need to charge from a generator, EcoFlow does provide a better option. So in this category, we would give the point to the EcoFlow power kit. Now let's take a look at the size of the components and how that relates to being able to fit the power system into a small space. So the Victron power bundle, given that it is more components, each of those components is small and you can kind of fit them into smaller spaces a little bit easier. The EcoFlow power kit, they do combine several of the components. So even though it's fewer overall parts, they're a bit bulkier and it would be harder to fit it into the same space. So you do have to probably give the EcoFlow kit a little bit more room. So in this category, in terms of the size of components, we would give the point to the Victron power bundle. Okay, so now let's take a look at battery heating. If you're going to be going into cold temperatures where it gets down to the teens, then you're going to need a way to heat the batteries in order to keep the system charging and discharging. So with the Victron power bundle, there is no battery heating included. You would have to add another system to it to keep the batteries up to temperature when it gets really cold. Whereas with the EcoFlow power kit, one of the really nice features is that it does have built-in battery heaters. So when the system senses that the batteries are getting cold, it will use a little bit of the battery's power to warm it up, and that effectively extends the amount of time that you can use the system in cold weather. So definitely for the battery heating category, the EcoFloow Power Kit is going to get 1 point. Now let's take a look at the ability to connect either of these systems to an online data logger. So with the Victron, it has the Victron Remote Management System, where if you buy the Servo, which is included in the power bundle, you can connect that to the internet, and then all of the data is collected and posted to the VRM system, so you can monitor it pretty much anywhere you have an internet connection. And EcoFloow also has a similar system. I would say they're pretty much equal. Both of them are good. So in the category of online monitoring, it would be a wash. Let's take a look at the remote display. So both of these systems do come with a remote display, and that gives you the ability to see what's going on with each of the pieces of a power equipment, and then see how much energy is flowing in and out of the system, and also do some other things. The EcoFloow display is quite a bit better in terms of user experience. One of the big things is that you can control 6 of your AC circuits and 6 of your DC circuits right from the display, which is not possible with the Victron system. Also with the EcoFloow display, it's quite a bit easier to use. So in terms of the remote display that you're going to have for either of these kits, we would definitely give the point to EcoFloow. All right, so let's take a look at the smartphone apps for each of these systems. So they both do have a smartphone app, but they work in slightly different ways. With the Victron system, you download the Victron Connect app to your smartphone, and then in order to see what's going on, you connect to each of the individual components directly from the app, and then you read the data from that component. The EcoFloow kit, its smartphone app, allows you to see the entire system in one place. It also has some really cool graphics and the history of each of the components right in the app. So for this category, the EcoFloow smartphone app is definitely going to be quite a bit better than the Victron app. So now let's talk about the installation of each of these systems, and this is one of the most important differentiations between Victron and EcoFloow. The Victron system is pretty complex, and I would say in general it is not appropriate for a novice builder or for somebody who this is their first time working with a power system. There are a lot of things going on. You have to cut, crimp, and connect all of your own wires, and you have to program the system so that it works correctly. So I spend a lot of time on tech support calls for people who have purchased a Victron power bundle and then they're installing it. We usually set up a couple video calls and go over a wiring diagram. There's quite a bit to installing the Victron power bundle. Even for a professional shop, the cost to have a Victron power system installed is going to be in the 40 to 50 hours of labor range, kind of depending on the complexity of the system. Whereas when you look at the EcoFloow power kits, it is quite easy for a novice to install. I would even say, since all of the harnesses are already cut, everything's labeled, and all you do is plug it in, then it can actually be a really fun experience to install because there's pretty much nothing you can get wrong. It happens quickly, and most people are going to have success their very first time. So just as a comparison, in a professional shop, the EcoFloow kit might only take 4 to 6 hours to install, and most of that time is just going to be in mounting the equipment and just tidying up the wire harnesses. There's not a lot of complex construction that goes into the EcoFloow power kit. So in terms of installation, this one is easy. The EcoFloow power kit is definitely going to get the points, and if I could give it 2 points, I would, because it's really that much easier. All right, now let's take a look at some of the limitations of each of these systems, because as great as they both are, they do both have their limitations. So with the Victron power bundles, you can pretty much expand and add as much new equipment as you want to the system. So you can kind of design a system that is more complex or less complex based on your needs. But the limitation is that you really do need to know how to connect all those together and how to get the programming right. Now, with the EcoFloow power kit, there are definitely some substantial limitations as well. You can expand the battery capacity, but there's only 5 different capacities that you can do for the entire kit. So that would be definitely one of the limitations. If you wanted to go a different size than is offered, you really can't do it with EcoFlow. And then a couple of the other limitations, and these are pretty big ones. The incoming power and the outgoing power are both limited on the EcoFlow power kit. So as I mentioned before, you can't charge the EcoFlow kit as fast as you can charge the Victron kit, only up to 1600 watts from the alternator. You could also be getting 1600 watts of solar at the same time. So if everything was running fine, you can definitely power it quickly. But with the Victron system, you can basically throw as much power as you want at it, as long as you have the right regulators in place. And then on the EcoFlow power kit, another one of the big limitations is that the output of DC power is limited to 75 amps. So what this means is that natively, it's not gonna work perfectly with your 12 and 24 volt air conditioners. And there are some workarounds that are kind of in development. So if you guys want to get the inside scoop on how to connect an air conditioner to the EcoFlow kit, then definitely subscribe to the channel because we will put a video out about that as soon as we figure it out. So in terms of limitations, we would definitely give the point in this category to the Victron Power Bundle because there are less limitations and you can do more with it. So let's talk about pricing and figure out which of these kits is a better value for you guys. So as of right now, we are in the spring of 2023. The 400 amp hour Victron Power Bundle is gonna run right around $9,000, and that would be with 100 watts of solar and a wiring kit, which you would definitely need to put it all together. And the EcoFlow Power Kit 5 kilowatt hour is going to be a little bit under $8,000, and that would also include 100 watts of solar. You also need to take into consideration the cost to install it. So if you're having it professionally done, you can count on the Victron Power Bundle costing in the neighborhood of $4,000 to $6,000 for a professional to install. Whereas the EcoFlow Power Kit, you may be able to get that down to $1,000 to $2,000 for the install. So there is quite a cost difference between the two, and in this category, the EcoFlow is definitely going to be awarded the point. So if you are planning on ordering either of these systems, we have a special discount just for our YouTube community. So go to the description and you will find a discount code for both the Victron Power Bundles and the EcoFlow Power Kits. And of course, with any of these kits, we always offer free consultations. So when you buy it from us, you're never on your own in terms of getting it installed. All right, now let's take a look at the quality of the components. So we've been working with Victron for a very long time, and the main reason we have always promoted it is because the quality is very good, and we feel confident that our customers are gonna get a power system that really lasts. The EcoFlow kits are a bit new, and one of the first questions that I had when I first put my hands on it is, what is the quality of this kit? And I can say that I've been very impressed. All of the components feel good, they're made well, and everything works as you would expect it. It's definitely not a cheaply made system at all. In terms of warranty, both of the Victron Power Bundle and the EcoFlow Power Kit come with 5-year warranties, but there is a limitation on the Victron batteries. Those only have a 3-year warranty, whereas with the EcoFlow Power Kit, you get a 5-year warranty on the whole system. In the category of quality, these are both very high-end systems that do what you expect them to do, so we would say that this is a tie. Finally, let's take a look at reliability. So with the Victron power system, it is very reliable equipment, but it is not without some issues. I would say that the most likely issue that you would have with the Victron is actually user installer created issues, and that would have to do with the wiring. So since you are cutting and crimping and soldering all of your own wires, there is a somewhat high likelihood that over time, one of those connections would come off or it wouldn't be wired correctly in the first place. With the EcoFlow kit, these have not been around as long, so we really don't know the long-term reliability of them yet, but just the fact that most of the user installer error has been completely eliminated, then I would say that the EcoFlow kit is gonna be the more reliable system, and so we would award the point to EcoFlow. I do want to mention in terms of technical support on either of these systems, both Victron and EcoFlow are kind of hard to get a hold of. There are some online forums that will help out, but technical support is not great for either of these. So that's why you can always call us. We are experts in these systems and we can help you guys figure out your problems and do some troubleshooting as necessary. That concludes our power system showdown. We've compared all of the features, the installation, the pricing, and other categories for the Victron Power Bundle and the EcoFlow Power Kit. And EcoFlow wins by a score of 9-4. And for me, that makes sense because about 75% of people who are building out a van or another vehicle with a power system in it should probably be getting the EcoFlow Power Kit. It is going to cost less, it's going to be way easier to install, and then it's also going to be most likely more reliable just because it goes together a lot easier and it's really made to all work together. Okay, so based on the review, which of these systems is going to be right for you guys? Why don't you leave us a comment and let us know what you're thinking? We would love to hear it. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us via email, phone, or also we have a chat feature on our website where we can answer your questions. Don't forget to check out the discount codes below because if you're going to buy this system, you'll want to save some money on it because they're pretty expensive. And as always, guys, thanks for watching and we will see you again next time.